Hello there. This is a series looking at 10,000 years of Indian history, from around 10,000 BCE with just Mesolithic hunter-gatherers to 200 BCE with a huge Mauryan Empire. I am looking at this narrative through three changing factors: the physical technology, mainly metals, the social technology, mainly ideology and religion, and thirdly, the interconnections and interactions with the world around which shaped Indian history. This is part 2, the continuation of metal technology. So if you haven't watched part 1 yet, I do recommend you go and watch it. So in the previous part, we looked at how copper and specifically bronze linked together both the high culture of the Indus Valley Civilization and other Chalcolithic cultures in central India, mainly through trade, but probably also through ideals of hierarchy and prestige. While this was happening in North and Northwest India, in peninsular India too, we see changes happening. From around 3000 BCE, the phase called the Southern Neolithic takes hold. We have archaeological sites where settler agriculture has started, mostly with stone tools at first, but copper implements have also been found. But most of the sites from this period gave us only stone tools. That's why I didn't find a mention in the last video. What happened to the Indus Valley Civilization finally? After 1900 BCE, we find that the nature and type of artifacts and the level of wealth and urbanism in Indus Valley sites definitely declined. Usually when we say the civilization declined or collapsed, what comes to mind is a city, one city, suddenly falling and people migrating elsewhere all at once. That was not the case. The Indus Valley Civilization was huge, like really huge. It had 50 lakh people in an area half the size of modern day India. And this is not a uniform mass of equals. There would have been farmers, long distance traders, craftspeople, metal workers, merchants, priests. Not all of them would want to migrate in the same way or to the same regions. What's important is that once a civilization declined in importance, in power, the Bronze Age socio-economic system that it had created fell too. How did the vacuum left behind by the decline of the Indus Valley Civilization become a country of urban centers, all within 1500 years or so? In northern India, a large power vacuum, a declining urban civilization on one side, and a number of Chalcolithic village settlements on the other, which weren't politically unified in any way. Copper still held importance though, for a few centuries. One of the most amazing finds at this age is the so-called copper hoards. Right around 2000 BCE, we have the appearance of particular kinds of copper objects from various parts of the country, but most of them concentrated in the Ganga-Yamuna Doab. These include anthropomorphic copper objects, a really fine sculpture of a man with an ox-driven cart, antennae swords and so on. The most spectacular find came out recently from Sinauli in Uttar Pradesh, a burial site. There, we found a cart or a chariot with wooden wheels clad with copper. Who were these people who could afford to use so much copper in an age where it was so rare? It is very easy to jump to straight conclusions and draw parallels from our mythologies when we see things like swords and chariots, but we must slow down for a bit. Sinauli is a great find, but it's still only a burial site. We haven't been able to find and excavate the settlement relating to the site yet. Almost all the other copper hoards, except some in the UP, have been found outside stratified layers, that is, from the surface, not within a layer itself. So we can't be sure of anything about these people except maybe that they would have been really special within the society to be able to afford so many non-utilitarian copper objects at that age. Were they a separate culture? We have a general idea of what the level of development and settlement from Chalcolithic northern India was at that stage, so maybe they don't fit in there. I'm just throwing out ideas here. Could they have existed as a separate mercenary army of the Indus civilization, expanding eastwards onto the Gangetic plain? On the other hand, the type of metallurgy in copper hoard sites shows a lot of important differences from Harappan objects, so they could be an entirely different group. The Sinauli debate is pretty heated in archaeological and history circles, and there are no definitive answers yet. The decline of Indus Valley Civilization did not lead to wholesale abandonment of the region, like I said. We get different localized cultures towards the east and south. Now, one of the challenging things about this period is that proper, complete connections between the historic sources, the Vedas, and the archaeological sources have not been made. Actually, that's not the only challenging thing about this period. 2 words, Indo-Aryan. Actually, 3 words, Indo-Aryan migrations. The whole issue is needlessly politically complicated, and any complete explanation should go into the history of the controversy itself, and then linguistics, the study of languages, and then archaeology and genetics and so on. Since this part is about metal technology, I don't want to get into it, and surprisingly enough, I don't actually need to. I'm not ignoring it. Hopefully through this series, and by the end of this, you will get an idea of the controversy and what position to take. If not, I will do a separate video. So now back to the main one. Complete connections between the historic sources, the Vedas, and the archaeological sources have not been made. So we often have to look at them separately. In archaeology, a group of sites which show same or similar type of artifacts, buildings, pottery, tools, weapons, are considered to be part of the same archaeological culture. So, not to be confused with the general way in which we think of culture, with intangible factors like ideology and language and religion. Looking at an archaeological material culture and connecting it to a people or a society is thus never straightforward. And then there's a convention in archaeology through which you name a culture after a type site or a type artifact. And you get a confusing mess of cultures when you try to research what happened to the Harappans. No, seriously, all sorts of colorful names like Cemetery Edge culture, Gandhara grave culture, Jukkar face, Bara culture, OCP culture. In some places, confusingly, Bara OCP culture, and so on. So I'm going to compress all of that and give you a summary of what was going on metal technology wise. By the way, if you want a detailed overview, one of the best references is this book, Iron Age in South Asia. Lots of pictures, great maps from all over the country. I will leave a link in the description. From 2000 BCE for around 1000 years, there's an overall very slow increase in the size, number and complexity of settlements across the Ganga-Yamuna plain and the overall region of north-central India. Deccan in the south is a little different, so I'll get to that in a bit. Some of these were most definitely migrating Harappans. Archaeologists have been able to interpret this from the material goods, seals, type of pottery, tools and so on. Other than the copper hoard, metallurgy never really reached the high sophistication it had during the Indus Valley Civilization. Most of these were chalcolithic, that is copper using settlements, but from some sites from as early as 1800 BCE, we start detecting the presence of iron. Iron metallurgy is a huge deal. Usually it shows a high level of skill. It's more difficult to work than copper, and widespread use of iron has resulted in fundamental changes in society. Did northern India have a prominent source for iron ore and iron metallurgy, like the Aravalis for copper ore? According to one of the latest papers, the general region of the Middle Ganga Plain and Eastern Vindhyas, specifically the sites which I have marked on this map here, excavations there have shown some of the earliest radiocarbon dates for iron anywhere in India, as early as 1800 BCE. And they've also revealed some impressive evidence, such as clay furnaces used for smelting iron. Early rare presence doesn't always mean widespread use of iron though. So maybe the ones we see really early on are experimentations, and over time, over a lot of time, that is centuries, high skill iron metallurgy would have been indigenously developed. So much so that most agricultural tools and weapons started being made with iron, and we can confidently say that India was in an iron age. Iron use and the expansion of human settlement is a virtuous or vicious cycle depending on your perspective. Iron hand axes make clearing of dense forests much easier, and iron plows also make working these newly uncovered soils easier, leading to agricultural surplus. On the other hand, there is a growing requirement for wood in the iron smelting kilns, which require high temperatures, thus leading to more deforestation and so on. All of this economic growth and growing complexity was still very slow from our modern day perspectives. We're talking of a 1000 or 1200 year old process through which a network of settlements got established, and some of them, based on some particular reason, either their location on trade routes or access to resources or something else, slowly started becoming small towns, which then over a few hundred years would grow into the great cities of ancient India. Remember that the growth in Indus Valley had taken even longer, right? From 7000 BCE to 2500 BCE. So that's 4000 to 4500 years. This, in comparison, is faster. The earliest archaeological evidences were what we can call cities in northern India. We see them from 600 BC or so, what historians call the second urbanization of India. These cities also look significantly richer than the villages before them. Better constructed houses, urban planning, water structures, lots of craft, religious structures like stupas, fortifications like city walls, and so on. There's also the first evidences for the issue of coinage. A lot of these are still continuously inhabited cities. For example, a lot of the ancient city of Pataliputra lies buried under the modern city of Patna in Bihar. So there's a lot more to be discovered. All of this was leading up to the first empire in the history of the Indian continent, the Mauryan Empire and its most famous emperor, Ashoka. From the archaeological evidence of this period, we can see the power and reach of the empire. The rock edicts of Ashoka, which mark a territory all the way from Afghanistan to Karnataka, the beautiful sculptures that we have from this period, and the design of the imperial capital, Pataliputra. And this, in long summary, is the material history of northern India's transformation from tribes to empire. Like I said earlier, there's a lot to be said in terms of literary sources from this period. But before that, we will look at peninsular India, all areas south of the Narmada, but especially the 4 southern states. For that, wait for the next video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Be sure to subscribe and share this with other Indian history lovers.